Apocalypse Gaming.
Hey there folks, if you're looking to install a roller blind, this may be the video for you. Specifically, this is Dunelm's type of roller blind. Roller blinds are all very similar in the way that they get fitted. Not much variation between them, but if you're specifically looking to see how you fit that retailer's roller blinds, this be your video. So, very first thing you want to do is take a tape measure and measure from this inside edge to this inside edge, and whichever measurements you prefer. I'm using centimetres. If you work in inches, use inches, but it's inside edge of the window to inside edge of the window. So within the actual roller blind packaging, you're going to find all these bits. They come in this little bag with instructions. So you get your two ends of the rollers, one with the cord pre-attached. So two ends, one with the cord pre-attached, your two brackets, and a bunch of screw and roll plugs. First thing I always do with shop bought brackets etc. that come with screws, bin these. Too often the screws or the bolts or whatever they are just too soft metal. So get yourself 4 screws of the same size but something a bit stronger than these, because I have had too many experiences where the heads on these are just that little bit softer. The metal, the alloy they're made from, just isn't as strong as using purpose bought screws for the job. So personal recommendation, bin them. It's up to you whether you want to use them or not, but that's just my wee personal recommendation. Keep the roll plugs are always useful, but the screws, send them to the metal recycle. So now it's time to fit the bracket, and what I'm going to do is just have it as tight as possible to the window, because I want to stop as much light as possible coming in this window. And I'm just going to use the ridge that we can see here that runs along my frame as my guide point as to where I actually want the bracket to finish. And all we do is take our marker, fire it through, try not to let the bracket slide. If you're worried, you can put a bit of double-sided sticky tape just so your bracket stays on the same point whilst you're doing it. And there we go, 2 dots ready to drill a small pilot hole so that when we put our screws in, we're sorted. Okay, from here, just take our drill, position it centre of the hole we've just marked, and just gently in. All we're doing is creating a pilot hole, so we don't need to go too far. The rest of your screw will do the job. So now it's just a case of taking and screwing the bracket into where we are. So first of all, put a screw actually in the bracket, just makes it easier when you're positioning. Up to your pilot hole, and bracket tight, and screw up. Don't over tighten at this point, just leave it loose. So now that that one's in place, we take our other screw whilst that one's still loose, and we're going to tighten this up. Bear with me, this is a little bit difficult because the camera where my chest would normally be, so I'm leaning quite far across to do this, so just bear with me a second. And now we can fully tighten the other bracket as well. So that's both screws fully tightened and bracket nice and secure. So all we do is rinse and repeat on the other side, and we'll have both brackets installed. So after repeating the process on both sides, we now have our brackets installed. What we're looking to do with this version of a roller blind now is we want to measure from the outside of the bracket. So we'll loop our tape measure under there and measure to in behind. So not this side, but in behind the actual bracket. So when it comes to the actual measure, if you're doing this on your own, as you know, or as you probably are aware, it can be footery trying to keep a measuring tape in place. Good little trick is get yourself some blue tack and jam it in place with the blue tack. So blue tack on the bottom, put it up in place and press it in. And now that leaves me both hands free for the other side when I come to do my measure. So blue tack's holding it in one side, and I have now two hands free so that I can twist, turn and see exactly whilst holding that tape measure nice, tight and taut, straight and taut even, what the exact measurement I need. And the exact measurement, contrary to what I thought it was, is still 106.5 because the window's just a wee bit wider than that. So first thing we want to do is take this rod, which is the weight in the bottom of your curtain, take that out the bottom just so we've got the loose material, and then you're going to lay it out in the area you're going to cut. So I've now laid the blind fabric out on the floor, rolled it out, and at the top end here I've just used a spirit level to keep it taut the full distance because it obviously wants to roll itself up a wee bit again. So just using the kitchen floor, it's as good a place as any place to actually lay it out and measure it. Now what you're looking to do is whatever the width that you've now measured your window, you want your curtain fabric, not your curtain, your blind fabric to be 32mm less than that. So the width of my brackets is 106.5 centimetres, 1065mm. I need this to be 32mm less than that. So measure the width of the blind and then take that down to the size that we need it to be. I'm just going to cut up one side because this is a dispersal type pattern blind. If it's a symmetrical one, you're going to have to take equal amounts off the left and right. But because this is the dispersal pattern style, a plain pattern, I can just take it all off of one side. Now it's time to break out your calculator and your tape measure. So the top size where I've got 106.5 will be the outer width of your brackets fixed in place, whatever that may be for your window. Minus the 32mm, I've just got it written down in centimetres, but it'll be minus the 32mm. So for me, that's 106.5 minus 3.2 gives me a required fabric width of 103.3 centimetres or 1033mm. The actual width of the fabric of this blind is 120.5 centimetres or 1205mm. I then need to subtract my required, which is 103.3, meaning I've got to chop off 17.2 centimetres off of this fabric. Okay, so what I've got out here now is my set square, and what I'm going to use the set square to do is just to make sure that the line I'm measuring in is perfectly square all the way along, and that way as I'm working my way up the length of the curtain, marking my dots of where I'm going to be drawing my line, everything stays even and everything stays on a nice straight line. So get yourself a set square, get one where the measurements start on the square end and not the opposite. So we're measuring in and we'll get to the 17.2 or whatever length you calculate for your window width, and then mark your dot. Move so far up the curtain, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, and then we get to our end and take out our long straight ruler or whatever we're using. I'm using the spirit level and mark our dots together. So let's go through the process and show you it happening. So we'll just zoom in and show you the marks that we first of all get. We'll just follow the straight line up. Camera can't pick up them all, but you get the idea. And now we'll take our rule and draw the straight line in place. So very simply, that's us now got our straight line, full length of the blind, right up to the roller bar. So what we're going to do is cut all the way up to that now as safely and accurately as we possibly can. Now the easiest way to achieve that is with long bladed scissors, i.e. dressmaking scissors, because the long blade means you can do nice long cuts and you're going to get less chance of a ragged edge. Yes, the chance of a ragged edge is still there. Yes, the chance of you cutting and leaving not a completely perfectly straight line is still there. This bit all comes down to patience, slow cuts, and not letting your scissors go all the way to a complete closure as you cut. So once we've trimmed that size off, whatever the size may be for you, it was a 17.2 for me, we're going to get to the top of the roller and we're going to find there's a bit of material still here that's still attached. Don't go yanking it, don't go disconnecting everything from the pole because you'll lose the stickiness. What we want to do is take a craft blade or a sharp Stanley blade and just slice along that line nicely, and then that'll peel off. So it's just a 1.5 cm, 2 cm cut with our blade to take that off. So as we see, this is what we've got here. I advise you to do this on the ground just for ease of the camera. I'm holding this up here where we can see it. Take your blade, find the bit you're looking for, and then just cut. Gentle wee cut so you're all the way through, and then peel it back and off. That's all it takes. As long as your blade's sharp, it doesn't take a lot of pressure. And that's us now easily, safely removed the bit we don't need. Now we've got a big long bar. We'll deal with this next. So what we're looking to do next is to roll up all the material back onto our pole, and I like to taper it so that it comes back away from the section we're going to have to cut down. It just means that we've got that area there, we can work out exactly where our cut needs to be and how much we need to take off the pole without this overlapping and getting a chance of getting damaged when we come to the cut, or of messing up the actual size that we need to measure. So just taper it so that it rolls back and away. So then, going to use a steel rule, and I'm going to use a CD marker pen because it won't rub off easy and it's a nice fine nib as well for what I'm looking to achieve. And we put it flush with our material, and we're looking for this to be 5mm all the way around. So we have the dots. Now obviously we could freehand that, but there is an easier way of achieving it rather than freehanding. Now purely for ease of use on the camera so you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to use some masking tape here, and we're going to use that to help mark where we want our line. In reality, sellotape should do the job nicely because you're not having to show things up for a camera at home. And what we'll do is take that masking tape and then just line that up with our marked dots. You don't want it on the dots, you want it just to the side of them, because remember we're going to be marking the line. If we've done that correctly, when we get round to the other side, we have a line all the way around. That's going to be our cut line, right on that. So we'll take our pen and mark it just to make life a bit easier. And thus we have now right round it, our actual cut line. The masking tape we can now take back off. It's not actually any requirement overall to take it off, but again, just to aid viewing on the camera, I'm taking it off so you can see. Get a wee bit of a zoom in here. And that's us now got our line all the way around the tube. Again, I'm going to take tape just to protect burred edges, and I'm going to wrap it right round here, this time with the clear tape, so I'll do it off camera because you probably won't see it anyway, and then we're going to cut over that line. So the tape should be just visible, and it's now completely encasing the line. Now when we take our hacksaw to cut this back, A, it should stop the actual hacksaw slipping, and B, it should just protect any burred edges as we cut down and through. So it's just a wee bit of an extra protective layer. You don't have to do it, it's just something that's optional. So as we have our cutting tools out, we want to take our bottom bar as well and measure that for cutting as well. Now we want this to be 10mm, 1 centimetre shorter than our fabric. Our fabric's 103.3, so 103.3, so we want this to be 102.3. And always double check your sizes, so 102.3. And then we can just use a set square again to mark that off. And that's us get our cutting position. So quickly grabbing a set square gives us a straight line over this, and that's where we'll be cutting this one. And again, we'll just wrap around a little bit of sellotape on it. So a bit of sellotape added over the line, and that'll just help the saw to stop it sliding when we go to do the initial cut with the hacksaw. Important, always use a new blade or a sharp blade if you don't have a brand new blade. So just so everything's kept in place, I'm using a workbench just to clamp down my pole. Another pair of strong hands holding it in place over your kitchen worktop would work just as fine. I don't have the extra body around, but I do have a workbench. So clamp it to the workbench, and then we're going to saw off the end. Now just take a file and take off some of that bone. Job's a good one. Take and repeat the process for the bottom bar. And that's then ready for going back onto the, or back into the curtain and fitting the curtain. The blind. So now that everything's trimmed off, we want to take and re-roll our blind so that it's nice and flush, so that both sides of the metal are shown, so that we can push it in our clips. And if need be, tap them in with a rubber mallet, but ideally we shouldn't need that. These should just push in where we want them to. So caps are pushed in. Mallet wasn't required, but you may need it depending on the shape of the metal after your cuts, but obviously wasn't required in this instance. So all we'll do now is push these into the brackets. We'll put other side in first. This side goes in last, as we can see it's sprung, so that will allow that to slide over the clip. It's also unshaped on the end, whereas our other side is shaped to fit the bracket. So with the space I had to operate, it was a little bit difficult to actually get you any footage of me installing this, but we take and we put this clip in first, just into the shape. As you saw, it was cross shaped, so we put in the slots to the slots on the bracket, making sure the top section here is at the top so that the roller actually rolls up and down. Once we've got that in place, we go over to the other side and that springy bit I previously showed you, depress that as far as it will go, and then slide your blind over the other bracket and then let go, and it's in place. Once that's done, we then have a fully functioning roller blind. So that's it. Very easy. It's not a difficult job. There are other videos out here or out there on it as well, but I thought let's show you specifically the Dunelm one, and that way if you're buying one from Dunelm, you know exactly what you're getting into. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Apocalypse Gaming.